If you haven't heard of Wish, then there is a lot that you're going to need to progressively learn about the entirety of D&D 5th edition. That Wish is the solution and often also the problem in most scenarios for. Wish is the most powerful spell in the game that canonically a player character can gain and use, and that's just in the base game. So other people can make Wish 2, the sequel, where they get to have 3 wishes, or 2 wishes even, because that would make more sense. Hello and welcome to Spell Spotlight, where we're in my room again. We're back here. You might need to get a little used to this as we record our videos and the like, but I think it's alright. I forgot. Leave that in, Laura. That would be funny. It even says in the spell description, Wish is the mightiest spell a mortal creature can cast, which is cool as hell. So, a few details. Wish is a 9th level conjuration. I believe that's a fitting school of magic, because you're making things happen, you're making things, you're changing things. Now that I think about it, it is definitely all of the schools of magic, but conjuration best fits the bill, and you'll learn why as we go along. If you don't know, you need to watch this. Casting time of an action, range of self to infinite. The range is not important. Components are simply verbal, and it lasts when it happens, and then the effect is whatever happens next. So, basically, one of the main uses of Wish, which not that many people use it for, but I definitely think that there are a lot of uses for it. You can cast this 9th level spell, and then cast any spell of 8th level or lower. This doesn't extend to 9th levels, which kind of sucks, because taking Wish would then... No, wait, that's perfectly balanced, because then if you take Wish, you have all the 9th level spells as well, instead of just taking the 9th level spells that you think you'd want. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. But 8th level and lower, if you cast Wish, you can cast any of them. Doesn't say anything about upcasting here, so it probably wouldn't be upcasted. It would simply just be cast at the level of the spell. Generally, I'd only really recommend using Wish for spells of 6th level or higher that you believe are very specific to the scenario. And if you're going to be taking Wish, you better have a good knowledge of your frickin' spellbook, or just the entire spell section from like 6th to 7th level and up, if you're going to take Wish. That's an exaggeration, but if you want to use it to its full effectiveness and not slow down the game too much, then I would recommend looking into all of the various spells that you could perhaps cast with your Wish. If it's not your turn, look at every single spell in the game. A very burdensome spell, but nonetheless, very good one. Apparently you also don't need to meet any requirements, meaning that, you know, if there are massive components that cost an infinite amount of money, who cares? You can cast it. If you're a wizard with Wish, you have the resurrection spell permanently, and you can cast it with no frickin' material components, which is the main disadvantage to having a spell that revives someone. It costs a lot of gold. So, it gives you a few sample effects and a few limitations to the spell that are pretty useful. And these effects aren't anything special, really. Let's have a look. You can create one object of up to 25,000 gold in value that isn't a magic item. So you can't just cast this 9th level spell and just make a bunch of magic items with it. There's a limit to that. However, it can be up to 300 feet in any dimension, and it appears on an unoccupied space you can see on the ground. That's funny. Yeah. I mean, the gold cost thing when you're at 17th, 18th level and you feel like, I have about 50 spells lying around that I want to copy into my spellbook that I don't want to just spam Wish for. Maybe get an object that's worth 25,000 gold, sell it for more, maybe, because at that level you're going to be able to sell it for more, and then see where that leads you. This one's fun. You can allow up to 20 creatures that you can see within range to regain all of their hit points, and all of them are given the Greater Restoration spell. And you can choose these 20 creatures, which is cool. That's fun. That's final boss clutch material right there. You can grant 10 creatures that you concede resistance to a damage type. So if you're facing a creature that you've been planning for a while and can very easily and obviously kick your ass, like maybe you weren't prepared for the ancient black dragon, the wish says, you know what, we're all resistant now, because fuck you. Acid damage, go away. You can grant up to 10 creatures that you can see immunity to a single spell or other magical effect for 8 hours. So you could make companions immune to a lich's life drain, which is a bad comparison, apparently. I'd say more you can make someone immune to, like, if you're going into like a vampire fight, you could all just be immune to the curses that they do, so and the charms even that they do. So that's a pretty neat way to prepare for a fight. Other than that, I think immunities with single spell is pretty cool. If you're facing a bad guy that you know has a big, massive fuck off, kill everyone spell, you can say no to that. No Meteor Swarm. We're all immune to Meteor Swarm. Thank you. Yeah, and that can definitely help out in a pinch. This last one's pretty creative. You can undo a single recent event by forcing a reroll of any roll made within the last round, including your last turn. This is like a 6-second reset, even after that roll's like happened and all the damage has been dealt. That might be really hard to manage overall in terms of using it in the middle of combat, especially combat at that level, because the DM is going to have a lot to manage. So a wish spell could undo an opponent's successful save, a foe's critical hit, or a friend's failed save. You can force the reroll to be made with advantage or disadvantage, and you can choose whether to use the reroll or the original roll. This is the lucky feat, but on like crack cocaine, methamphetamine, LSD, weed, frickin' everything. It's great, and sure, you're only going to be able to use it once a day at most. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting feature in my opinion. All of these I don't believe are 9th level spell worthy, however, but they do each cover the bases of good spells. These are a bunch of like 7th and 8th level spells put into one with just these effects that they recommend in terms of the DM, because this spell is entirely up to the DM's control. And from this point, after I've read all of the set in stone features, I've turned my phone off because we're going to talk about the actual use of Wish. Took us a while. You are going to want to use Wish for your campaign for a multitude of different reasons. If you take Wish, your character might need some sort of reason to take it. For instance, there might be something amazingly huge going on in the story that they want to fix, perhaps. A decent example of when Wish was, or at least was being attempted to be used in a story way, was Scanlan Shorthalt and Vax'ildan, yada yada yada. You all know that story. If you don't, check out the like counterspell moments where Scanlan had to use his biggest spell that was going to be for Wish to counterspell something, and it was very sad because then they couldn't cast Wish. But yeah, it's a very interesting spell for a lot of story elements. As a DM also, you can use this in a variety of ways. Ultimately, this is a spell that is geared towards being for the DM in terms of both if a player or a DM has it in this instance, because Wish, you can wish for anything. And if your DM thinks that's reasonable for a 9th level spell, then yeah, you're getting it. And they can play around with the costs of it and the like. Wish is a very powerful spell in the player's hands. It's an even more powerful spell in the DM's hands, because they can take time to think of how they want to word it, and they will know the desired result once they have casted the spell, because they're the one that decides it afterwards. In my story, I have a lore tidbit about how there was an evil lich who had begun conquering the entire world, and they had managed to do so by summoning an entire army of undead and also people and also weird creature soldiers. They casted Wish so that they could have an army, and that's them pushing forward, basically. As a player, you're definitely going to need to think through every little minute detail of your word, of your wish even. Because, let's be real, like, the DM, most probably, if you're casting Wish, is going to manage to spin it in a way that, sure, the effects will come around, but there may be hidden consequences behind it and the like. I believe that as a DM you need to find a balance between punishment and reward with this spell. Perhaps think of an immediate reward and no obvious punishment until later down the line. For instance, I wish to be king of the world. You're the king of the world now. You have all the retainers you'd ever want. You have your castle. Now people are starting a rebellion because they don't know why you're the king. That sort of thing. But definitely slowly introduce that and don't force it. Wish can cause an entire arc of a campaign to happen. That spell can cause anything to happen. I've used Wish as a plotline for my first campaign because Wish was the inevitable thing that was going to happen with the bad guy. They were going to summon the army and it was all going to be like, oh. That's kind of the way that I used it. In terms of being a player and using this spell, be very mindful because once you've cast it for any reason other than getting the benefits of 8th level spell and lower, where you can just cast any of them, you got to roll a d100. On a 33 or lower, you can never cast Wish again. Which I think works. Even if it's still in your spell list, you can't exactly just like swap that out now. And you're stuck with this spell that you can't cast anymore because you've casted it for a big reason. A big reason. Wish is a astronomically huge spell, and in comparison to the rest of the 9th levels, they pale. They pale in comparison. Just in general. Some of them have really neat things. Prismatic Wall is a personal favourite of mine for whatever reason. There's Weird, which is fun as hell. There's Power Word Kill, which I've talked about actually. But yeah, there's a lot of components to the Wish spell that I honestly feel like I cannot explain to you because you'll probably have to find them out yourself through watching other people cast the spell on various shows, which is very rare because the game doesn't really get to 17th level, 18th level quite often. But yeah, that's Wish. There's a lot more to it. We can always keep the discussion going in the comments. If you want to talk more in depth and like quicker with me, then you can join our Discord, which is in the description. And yeah, hope you guys are doing well during the chaos that there is a lot of. Let's admit there's a lot of it, but we'll get through. It's chill. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.